Hi there! You're about to listen to a vintage episode of the Under the Microscope podcast. While the content is still as relevant and as interesting as when it was recorded, our webpage has changed. You can now find us at thesciencetalk.com/real-scientist-nano. Welcome to Under the Microscope. This series is brought to you by the Real Scientists Nano team. Our goal is to provide a platform where scientists can communicate their work and interact with the public. With that in mind, every week we introduce you to a scientist working in the field of materials and nanoscience, who would be curating the RealSci_Nano Twitter account.
Hi everyone, today we have with us Ann-Katrin Michel, who is a lecturer at ETH Zurich in Switzerland, and soon she will be an assistant professor at TU Eindhoven in the Netherlands. Hi Ann-Katrin, how are you?
Hi Pranoti, thanks for the invite. I'm fine, how are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to really taking a deeper dive into your science now, getting to know more about your science and you as a person. So let's start with your scientific journey so far. So please tell us, how did you end up where you are today? Tell us everything.
I try my best. So I graduated from high school in Germany in the summer of 2005, so now actually many years ago. And I moved to Aachen, which is right at this tri-border point between the Netherlands and Belgium and Germany. And I chose the university, RWTH Aachen, since it was among the first universities that just started their bachelor's and master's program. So by that time, there was still the diploma programs in Germany in place. And I wanted to already start with a bachelor's and master's program to have some more opportunities going abroad, maybe changing the subject a bit, because I wasn't really sure what to study. So I was very indecisive if I should choose physics or math, but the mathematics I was a bit too scared of, or engineering, or even a bit of chemistry. So in the end, I was lucky that Aachen just started 2 years before I started my bachelor's, had the materials science program. It was the very first in Germany, so it was already new, and we were just 24 students, I think, who started there. And I was super happy about this interdisciplinary program, and very much enjoyed learning some physics, some chemistry, some engineering. So it was a bit a plethora of science, but not like too focused in any field. And so I did my bachelor's in that. And then I focused on nanotechnology and electronic materials for my master's program. And for my master's thesis, I went to the US, to the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratories, because I wanted to try to go abroad. And that was a good opportunity to go without having additional costs, because I come from a low-income family, and I was happy about some social subsidies I had as a student, but that just made studying abroad difficult. And so doing this for my master thesis, I had like a little contract there and had a scholarship from Aachen. So it was all affordable in a way to still follow that dream to go to California once, at least for a while. And so I had an amazing time there, and would also like to give a big shout out to my supervisor back then, Delia Milliron, who is now professor at the University of Texas at Austin. And I was always so impressed by the way how she led the group, and how very happy everyone was in that group, while even having an amazing scientific output. So it was an amazing time, and I learned a lot and made many great friends I still am in contact with, and many of them are now amazing group leaders, like Rafaela Buonsanti, who is now a professor at EPFL. And she's amazing. And she was a postdoc there when I just joined as a little master student. So I had a terrific time there, and I won't miss it for anything. Then for my PhD, I returned back to Aachen and actually joined physics because, yeah, material science you can't do a PhD in, as you know. And so, yeah, I chose applied physics and joined an optics group.
Right.
Even I never had a lecture on optics and everything seemed very new to me, but it was also a great learning experience. And then I really worked on phase change materials and combined it with the group's experience with infrared optics. And so also learned a lot and changed a bit the direction. And at the same time, I was also departmental advisor for the master's program in materials science. So also had a great insight into university politics. And then after I finished my PhD in the beginning of 2017, I started as a postdoc in the optical materials engineering laboratory at ETH Zurich here in Switzerland. I'm in the group of David Norris, who's also a great supervisor, and I can only highly recommend joining this group. And then in May this year, as you said, I'll start my assistant professor position in Eindhoven, and I'm super excited and a bit anxious.
Super. That's quite a journey you've had. You've moved around a lot and you have some amazing experiences, and you've also met some amazing people along the way. That sounds really cool and all positive. And good luck with your position as an assistant professor. Even saying it makes me a bit giddy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the good wishes.
I'm sure you're going to do great. And I'm sure hopefully we can have you in the future as well once your group is established and everything is set up and all of that, that you can tell us, come back on the podcast and also on the Twitter account to tell us, update us. Okay, this is where I was a few months ago and this is where I am now. That would be amazing to look at.
Sounds great. I hope it's not just from a Swiss home office to a Dutch home office. So fingers crossed.
Yes. Let's keep our fingers crossed for that. Absolutely. So what I do also want to understand from you, I mean, you did speak about your current research in the short podcast as well. However, how does it fit in this big picture of materials and nanoscience? Because materials or nanoscience is quite broad. So where does it fit?
So I work on these actually long known phase change materials, but we're still on the quest of really understanding this materials class, and especially more recently to understand their size dependent properties. Because also with new progress in syntheses and nanofabrication, everything, there come new size effects. And so we're kind of going hand in hand with nanofabrication and studying these materials, characterizing them. Along those lines, I'm also exploring the opportunities to switch these materials, which means reversibly changing their structural state. And so like really addressing the properties you would like to have at a certain temporal point. And yeah, I'm also finally trying to find out how to apply these materials, and therefore especially collaborating with different groups and understanding also needs in different fields. Like people work on data storage or on-chip computing have different needs than people who work on photonics or now photonic integration. So it's also a lot about communicating and really figuring out how different disciplines can help each other.
Yeah, okay. So you're going from the material point of view, and whichever application is possible, you will just adapt it accordingly by understanding and exploring the different properties of these phase change materials, and also do it reversible.
Yes, and also communicating the different fields, what we can actually deliver, for example, with the materials expertise, and then really finding out not just what we can, but what maybe just need to be necessary. So sometimes you also don't have to use up all the maximum performance you can give, and sometimes you just have to go for more energy efficient or faster. And so there's a lot about communicating with device people who in the end just really want to do a wafer scale integration of these materials, which has very different challenges compared to just working on your little 2 by 2 centimeter wafer piece in as a PhD student, for example, where you just work with one sample for a couple of years, maybe even. So there, it's really a lot about understanding the needs along the lines from fundamental research to then really technology readiness level. So what do we have to do to get to the point that a foundry can actually make use of what we propose in our physics and chemistry publications?
Okay, this is such a typical material scientist sort of a work that you do. This is so cool, and it sounds like you have been involved in a lot of interesting research projects, and I'm pretty sure you have like a list of interesting projects that you want to do in the future. And this question is difficult. I know it's difficult, but if you have to pick one research project that you are most proud of, or the most quirky or fun one, could you pick one? I know it's difficult, but could you pick one and explain it to us in simple words in the section we call In Other Words?
If I just have to pick one, that I would still pick a project out of my PhD, because it was just from the working environment and the entire organization, like the most interesting and maybe fun one. So I met at the conference with a postdoc who was back at that time at Stanford, and it was a PhD before in Aachen. And we were just speaking about what we're doing, and he was working on ultra-fast laser sources, and I was just working with phase change materials for resonance tuning for photonics. And so then we just discussed a bit if we could do something together. And it finally ended up that after a conference in San Diego, I just went up to Stanford, brought some samples. We spent like a week in the accelerator in Stanford on the ultra-fast laser source. And we're then by the end, the first group who showed that you can use femtosecond laser pulses to tune these infrared antenna resonances. And it wasn't just cool because it was successful, and we had a nice publication which was highlighted in Nature Photonics, but the best part was that it like came out of a discussion among friends, and we had a really cool week together in Stanford where we very much just followed this plan we made, because we hadn't a lot of funding for that. We had to be quick and had to use what we had at that point and couldn't just wait all along. So it was extremely well planned and executed, I would say, looking back. And then it was just so cool how also sometimes how fast a project and the publication can be done and how smooth it can go. So that was just maybe a singular point where you can do actually a cool project in maybe like a week and some planning beforehand.
That is really cool. That I can understand why you picked this as the part of one of the research projects that you're most proud of, or the fun one, because as you said, it literally started with two friends talking to each other at a conference, and then you just like, bring your samples, let's plan it, let's execute it with whichever restrictions we have, with how much money we have, let's make it happen. And then you do end up getting positive results, and then it is getting highlighted in Nature Photonics and stuff. So that is really cool.
Yeah, also shout outs to my collaborator then, Peter Zalden, who is now actually a researcher at the European X-ray free electron laser facility. So if you ever would like to do a cool project there, I can highly recommend working with Peter.
Okay, I will note Peter's name down, definitely. Okay. Super. So, Ann-Katrin, I mean, of course, you love the science, doing the research aspect of being a scientist. I'm sure you love that, doing the experiments, getting your hands dirty, and all of that. But as a scientist, you're more than just the research you do, right? There are several different kinds of activities that you do have to do and you want to do. So my question is, other than the research aspect, what else do you like about being a scientist?
I think a few hard and soft facts. So I think the cool part is, as you already mentioned, to work with so many different people from different backgrounds. So being in different fields, different countries, different upbringings, different ethnicities, religions. So you just meet a very diverse, or can meet a very diverse set of people, which is super interesting. Also living in different countries can, while being sometimes exhausting to move, a very exciting experience, and you learn so much more about the world when you just live in these different countries.
Mhm.
So before COVID, I also really enjoyed traveling to different conferences, visit different groups, and talk to students who had different college and research experiences. And also maybe a very minor fact, but I like the fact that I can quite individually organize my work time, my work schedule. So I worked briefly in industry, like a 8 to 5 job, and I didn't enjoy it so much to have to work in this narrow time frame. So while it is difficult to not then work all the time and every day, I still like that you can a bit plan around and maybe even take like a longer walk right now when we work from home during a lunchtime or something. So I very much enjoyed it. But I think much more importantly, I like the fact that apart from discovering novel things, to excite people about research and telling them what I work on, and then seeing that you maybe be able to help them in their project, they can be excited, or that they excite you for their project. So it can be like a very inspiring exchange of ideas. And the best part about that is when you then see a student being excited about their own data, and then seeing all the steps from them starting to becoming an individual researcher, and you just witness all these little steps in between, like when they do a great presentation and they get a lot of positive feedback, they do successful experiments, or when they know, oh, now I can write my first publication, or then it's even accepted, and you just see, like, you can witness these young inspiring people, younger than me at least, to really become an independent researcher, and maybe find their calling, may it be in R&D in industry, or may it be a few who have who can join academia. But it's amazing to be with them on their journey, and help them a bit and mentor them when they need it. So I think that's the most rewarding part.
Okay. That's quite a lot of things that you highlighted, and I especially like the last part that you mentioned, that you get to see the growth, or the different steps the young scientists go through, like writing my first paper, getting my first data analysis done, and the excitement. I'm very happy that in academia we have people like you, because that means that the future of academia and research in science is in good hands. No pressure.
Thank you.
But no, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing all of that, because I feel like a lot of people, especially non-scientists, they think that only doing the research is all scientists do, but we do so much more than just doing the research and going in the lab and getting our hands dirty.
No, I think the main part should be being an academic teacher in all senses. So not just only giving lectures, but mentoring the students all the way, and also adapt to the students, because some of them maybe just want to get through, and this is also fine. And some of them just really want to excel, and sometimes then you also have to manage a bit expectations, because it's not always just upwards. And some of them might struggle because they're first generation, or they have like some family challenges or something. So it's always a very individual mentoring situation, which I think is rewarding, but also sometimes difficult, and requires a lot of energy. And I hope academia will always give us space and energy and time to do this, because I think this is the core of the job, not just trying to get Nature publications.
I completely understand that. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. And it sounds like you're an amazing mentor, and you also have had amazing mentors as well in the past, and also now, hopefully, and will continue to have amazing mentors in the future as well. However, if you were to give an advice, a single advice, or pieces of advice that you want to give either to scientists who are starting out today, or to yourself, to go back in time and to give advice to yourself? You can choose to answer whichever way. Advice is what I'm looking for here.
Yeah, I think most important is that you don't get caught up in your often extremely high expectations. So it's important to stay curious, be patient, be persistent, keep on going. But you need luck. Everyone needs the necessary luck, and then things will work out. But yeah, I myself always imagined that I have to have a perfect career and get to the next position and being successful and making it, like being a professor in the end, which I always dreamed of. But yeah, we all have to face it over the years. Many things don't work out. Some projects will never be published. Some grants will never get funded, even you have perfect scores or whatever, might just not fit. So we're all on our way, learn a lot throughout this journey, and shouldn't compare ourselves also to others all the time. So what's the impact factor? How many publications, whatever, because you don't know what their challenges are and what battles do they have to fight every day. So defining your own goals and really be aware of what matters to you, and then building your own career, be it in academia, be it in industry, be it in education, or whatever makes you happy. And then it will work for you and your loved ones, but it has to be about you and about your goals, and they shouldn't be really overshadowed by what everyone else is doing. So finding your own way, I guess, in life is always the most difficult, but I can see that for many, and also for me, that it's hard to not just always feel like a failure, because on Twitter everyone is sharing like, oh, I got this funded, I got this nice publication and this award, which is awesome, and we should celebrate that, because many achievements aren't really celebrated often. It's just like tick off the box and then do the next one. But it's also great that many also very highly accomplished researchers now also share their failures, what grants didn't get funded, what didn't work out, where maybe did you really just like not do a good job, because that's part of the game, and it's important to also be transparent about that, so that young researchers don't just feel like a failure all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's some really good advice you got there. Just be easy on yourself, and everyone has their own battles that they have to go through. So be kind to other people as well around you, and also be kind to yourself, because oftentimes we forget that we are also a person, we are a human being. We have to be kind to ourselves as well. So that's really good advice. Thank you very much for that. And now let's talk about a little bit about the research experience a little bit. And I hope your experience has been wonderful in the past and will continue to be wonderful in the future as well. However, if you have to pick, if you had 3 wishes to improve your research experience, what would you ask for? And I'm not promising anything here.
I think, as most people, most research would say, secure base funding would be great, so that you know there won't be a zero in the beginning of the year at any point. I think that would lead to less stress, more sleep in a way. In general, less focus just on impact factors and buzzword science. So it's really important that we also just celebrate and put worth to the very basic science we often cite. I don't know how often the publications on optical properties of silicon were cited or something. So this is very fundamental research that everyone needs, but it's definitely nothing buzzwordy, like you get like a catchy talk or something, but it's just crucial science. And I think finally, I would also love to have very much more inclusive working environment, where it now starts with all that Black scientists get more attention, that women are more encouraged. I also think people from with maybe a different idea about relationships or marriage, different religions, just in general, very different upbringings and socioeconomical backgrounds should be included more, and not just feel like, yeah, you're not really part of us because maybe you don't know the rules of the game so well because you're not coming from a family of professors. Because I don't know, for my master's, I didn't really understand why I should aim for a publication because I didn't, by that time, I didn't know how important publications were. I had absolutely no idea. Maybe it was also just very stupid of me, but I never really understood how this worked because no one told me from the outside, and I didn't really see the point why I should ask how this all worked, because it seemed so out of reach for me to some extent. So I always just did like one step at a time and didn't really plan any career. And I'm still sometimes wondering, how did I actually make it here? I never read like a book, how to become a professor or how does it all work. So I also had a lot of luck and people who helped me throughout and sometimes pointed out, maybe you should do this or that. But I wouldn't have had these people. I could also have easily ended up just not making the right decisions, but not because of deciding against anything, but just because I wasn't aware what I should decide for, because many rules weren't so obvious to me.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, all three of your wishes, they completely make sense, especially the last one, that we need to have an inclusive environment, just in general inclusive, not just ethnicity, religion, but socioeconomic backgrounds. For example, first generation academics, it's like we don't know, for example, writing papers is important during master time. I didn't know either. Like, okay, I guess at some, and these are, the questions, or these are the rules that you don't even think about. So how
Yeah,
can
also
questions?
some people who like maybe don't go abroad or just study where their parents live because it's like the only affordable way they have at that point.
Right.
So it's very much a question of perspective, and the younger you are, maybe you just have the perspective of the people surrounding you. And I had a friend who actually got her PhD. Her parents, she grew up with me, but her parents, one of them wasn't able to write or read, and the other one only went to school for 8 years. So the fact that she got a PhD in the end meant a lot of fighting against her family because they didn't understand why she wouldn't like to start earning money as early as possible. So for some people, this just seems like the only focus they have, because they're really struggling with their monthly income. And so for them, even graduating from school after 12 years seems like a luxury they don't really can't afford.
Right.
Really important to have teachers and professors who, yeah, share a bit their own life stories with the students and try to mentor them, even throughout lectures and everything. Just be a bit more transparent, what academia can mean, and also be transparent about the fact that you can do a PhD in the end, and you can also do a postdoc. But unfortunately, making it to really to a professor position requires a lot of luck, a very specific lifestyle also. And even if you have all of this right now during COVID, I know people who are postdoc in Stanford and didn't get a professor position. So we also have to be realistic about where you can go with your career. And we also have to have PhD students who can transfer to industry with more flawless, more smoothly as they can maybe right now. So it's also really difficult environment because you have to prepare everyone for everything in a way. And this is definitely also a challenge. And I think we have to be honest to the students what's possible also with your education.
Yeah, yeah, that makes complete sense. Absolutely. Ann-Katrin, this has been wonderful. I enjoyed talking to you a lot. But before we let you go, I have one last question, which is last year, the year 2020, has been unusual, to put it nicely. So what are your learnings from the year 2020, which you can share with us?
So I think, as we discussed before the podcast a bit, I think we're all much more adaptable than we maybe expected to be. So many things now work even out for a year. We're all doing push-ups and burpees in our living rooms and yoga in front of the screen, and I don't know, have video calls in the bedroom and someone else in the kitchen or so. So we really had to be creative a bit. And maybe also if we're living with a significant other or family members, we all, I think, got different insights in the human beings we're actually living with, because we're spending 24 hours every day with each other, which luckily has been for me and my husband a wonderful experience. And now I know how he works. I would have never had that experience, and I liked it very much. So I think this has been a positive surprise, and I think it's also great to see how you can actually restructure your daily life if you don't have so many schedules, in the sense I have to catch the train then, and then we have this meeting, and you always have to run from place to place. So now sometimes, at least people without small children at home and homeschooling and everything, which is a whole different chapter, and I see friends, I don't know how they do this, where they get the energy from, how they all manage this to be like a chef and a teacher and then still doing their job and everything. But I think, yeah, if you had some free time, then I saw many people who picked up new hobbies and actually liked it. I made myself very familiar with the forest behind our place, and took daily walks, which I hope I can still keep up with, even if there's an after the pandemic at some point. So I think that was great, but I can also, even all the online conferences and everything worked out often better than we thought, also sometimes worse. But I can't wait for just being at a conference and having a really bad coffee and like maybe not so great snack, and sitting there with people and just being together and doing networking, just with it's a little bit different still face to face. And yeah, I can't wait to meet the fellow scientists and some friends I haven't seen now for way more than a year, and to catch up and really spend some time together. So even we all made it work, I think one can see that many people are tired now of it and really just want to see their students again and want to have meetings together again, and bond a bit as a group, and not just as like the same Zoom image again and again. We're just see everyone like at home a bit. We can do it, but I think it would be great if we can return to some sort of normal again.
Yeah, I mean, we can do it, we can adapt, but it would be nice not to have to do it, but we do it because we want to do it.
Exactly.
That's always the case. So thank you for sharing your learnings as well. As I said, was amazing speaking with you, Ann-Katrin. Thank you very much for speaking with me, and looking forward to having you on Real Scientist Nano.
Thanks for having me, and keep up the great work. I enjoy listening to your podcast. Thanks a lot, Pranati.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To know more about us, please visit our website, realscientistsnano.org, and follow us on Twitter at realsci_nano.